Welcome, everyone. And I was thinking this was going to be the last class of these Saturday online workshops, from isolation to connection. But I just got informed that they continue. So I have good news that these will continue next Saturday and onward. And I want to thank Michael, and I want to thank Stefan for organizing these. They've been invaluable to me, and I hope they've been invaluable to you. I've been on sort of a retreat since the social isolation began with the COVID virus, and the work of the leaders has been invaluable to me. It's been very, very important, not only during the classes where I immediately get into kind of a clear space and an open space, but afterwards. I take a walk every day around a lake, and beautiful Lake Taconic in New York State. And without trying, the things that go on in the class kind of come back. It might be from lifting the shoulders to letting that go into a kind of more natural state with the shoulders, or it might be what we did early on with working with the feet, coming to the ground with the foot sole, with the heel to the toes, and numerous things, bird listening, everything just seems to come back. And it's been very, very rich. And I thank everyone, all the leaders and the participants, for making this a rich experience. I say retreat, but it's an odd retreat because we're very much aware of the world right now. It's entering almost all the time with the COVID virus, and now with the killing of George Floyd. It's I would say one of the most trying times in recent American history and world history, for that matter. Very, very difficult times. The police officers, so-called officers that did this action, were not inclined to listen, to put it blunt, at all. And it's kind of like the last recent egregious action of a 500-year period of violence against Black people in this country, starting with slavery, segregation, prejudice, and so on. And to the point where it's kind of like nothing surprises, and yet it's absolutely shocking that these guys were so unconscious of this man that was in front of them, under them, literally under them. They didn't want to know that he was a high school, hero, football star, basketball star, that he was known as a gentle giant from his friends, that he's not an aggressive man, and that he has 2 daughters. They didn't want to know anything. They didn't basically want to see or hear this person. So it kind of calls to me that the work we do is, I would say, actually the opposite direction of this. We work with hearing, we work with feeling, we work with reacting to what's in front of us, and with listening, not just to the sounds, not just to the words, but to the person who's in front of us. So I would like to revisit briefly an experiment that was done by Terry a few weeks back, and it's about hearing. And I think I'd like to start with that, and then we'll move on from there. So where you are, I assume most of us are sitting. The ones I see are sitting, some in Japan, some in California, all over the place, we're sitting. And I'd like you to take this moment to feel what you're sitting on and how the breathing influences. I'm going to mention this George one more time. He was basically saying, please let me breathe. And they did not listen to that. And I'm asking us, and we're all asking ourselves, to feel this breathing, this gift of life, this gift of energy that we have, the gift of possible presence, to feel this breathing and how it influences our sitting. And if you can, and as much as you can, you may not be able to do this a lot, you may be able to do it, but just allow your hands with the palms upward to slide under your buttocks, and see if you can get see if you can let the palms come all the way under the sitting bones where you're sitting. See if you can slide, depending on your chair, this is more or less possible. But I'd like you to try to have the palms of your hands be under your sitting bones. And what does this do to your sense of connection with what's under you? It has changed now. There's something between your sitting bones and the chair. How does it feel in your hands? And how does it feel in these bones we call sitting bones, which is the bottom of the pelvis? And maybe you rotate around a little bit just to feel this structure that connects us to the earth, or indirectly, but to the chair when we're sitting. Feel the structure, the movement that's possible. And how this weight, the weight, our weight, your weight, my weight, how it goes right through the sitting bones, right through the hands, into the chair, how the support can support us, and how our weight goes to the support. And what it does to sitting when we feel this support that's under us. Maybe you rotate a little forward and backward on these marvelous kind of rounded bones that enables a lot of movement. And letting this forward and backward movement, letting it gradually get smaller and smaller so that one is feeling a kind of balance, forward to backward. Not too far forward, not too far backward. And when you feel like your weight is going down balanced to the chair, just let the hands slide out without disturbing your sitting. Let your hands slide away from the sitting bones and rest on your thighs perhaps, or somewhere where they can rest easily. How do the hands feel now that they're no longer carrying any weight? What has changed to the circulation in the hands? And when you're ready, take all the time to let your hands come gently to your ears. Let your hands come up to your ears. And with your hands at your ears, would you notice what happens to hearing? Clearly it gets a little less loud, but does it change your ability to hear? And then slowly we take away the hands again and let them rest somewhere. And what is hearing like now? Can you hear the tones in my voice as well as the content of the words? Can you hear the rhythms of the words? And is your contact with me limited to the voice, or can you get some sense of the person who is speaking? And I don't mean a thought sense, but just a feeling sense that there's a person behind these words, behind these sounds. How does it feel to listen to a person? Not just to what they're saying, but to how they say it, and to maybe the heart that's behind the saying. And as you're ready, let's let our hands come up somewhere else on the head. Maybe you would want to be on the forehead and behind the head, but you find somewhere else on the head to place your hands where you like. Are your fingers and palms flexible enough to bend to this contact, to be fully mobile, able to sort of react to the surface under them. And how does breathing answer? What does breathing say to this? Your lungs are actually changed now somewhat. They're in a slightly different relation to your arms. How it feels to let air in and out while someone's speaking. And before your arms get tired, once again, let your hands and arms come to rest. Is there something like easy listening, which I don't mean a type of music, but listening without straining, without grasping, where sounds come in, where it may be a person, not, where a person is listened to, without straining to try to get that person, but just hearing him or her. Are you aware of any other sounds in your space that you're in? Your room? Is there any other sound? For me, there's fans. What does that feel like to give some space for listening to something that we don't normally attend to? How deep does it go in you, the sounds that you hear? Are these sitting bones that we explored, are they interested in sound? Does the ground support me for hearing? So thank you very much. That was just a little, I guess we say start of a huge exploration, which is me, you, and interconnection. Charlotte Selver, our teacher, was going deaf relatively early on in her life, and I don't know exactly. It might have been 40s, I'm not sure. But she talked to Elsa Gindler about that, and she says, how will I do this? How can I possibly be a teacher if I go deaf? And Elsa Gindler said to her, Charlotte, you don't just hear with your ears, you hear with your whole self. So I would like to work with this, the possibility of ease, letting things be themselves, as opposed to force. Forcing something to happen, or making something happen, or even doing it. So effort versus ease. And I looked up the word effort, and it's an old French word that means basically force. So instead of using force, allowing the work to come by itself and allowing ease wherever possible. This is something important to me, as I have a tendency to try to get things done kind of person. So allowing the development. So why don't we come on up to standing? Take the time you need to feel the process of coming up to standing. I'm going to move back so that you can see me better on the screen. I'll tilt this angle a little. Here, that works better. So here we are in a totally new relation, not totally new, but a relatively new relation to the supporting floor, and to gravity. How does the support feel now? For those of us who are standing, the support is going through the foot soles. That Richard was working with this on day one when I tuned in, going right through the soles of the feet. Is the floor strong enough to carry me without effort? And does the support of the floor continue on past the feet? How far do you feel supported by this floor? And what does this support enable in terms of letting your weight be easy and come down to what we call gravity? Be pulled by gravity, what Charlotte calls the pull. Do we feel anything of the pull as well as the supporting floor? So let's let our arms raise up to the sides. And it's going to take energy, your energy, to raise your arms. But there's also something pulling down, which we called gravity. We don't have to let them get that high. Just let the arms raise and come back down. This is not an exercise. This is just an exploration of allowing your energy to do something, I would say, in the opposite direction from the pull of gravity. So you feel the work you're doing, or the energetic movement you're doing, and maybe you feel the gravity pulling down on your fingertips, on your arms. Whatever you feel is what you feel. Don't make it up. Just feel what you do. And you find the speed and you find the rhythm. And let the arms go up and be pulled down to resting. You may want to rest a while when you're down. You may want to rest less long. And we're totally free to change the angle of lifting. So if you like, you can let the arms raise to the front. Or you might want to raise them all the way above your head. This is up to you, how you do this, how far, how often, and sort of the angle of it all. If you notice anything like effort in anything, without trying to change it, is it possible to just feel that effort and see if it changes by itself, just from feeling? See if effort with consciousness of it. See if there's a tendency for it to go away or not. I don't know. You know what happens. The leader in sensory awareness is not an authoritarian. They don't know. We don't know. We propose an experiment. If you like to sit down and do this while sitting, it's up to you. If you feel tired or anything, the idea here is to find what you need. But if you're still standing, or even if you're sitting, would you let your arms come to resting somewhere by your sides? And just feel how the arms Allow blood flow. Does the blood flow go into the hands now more than before? Is it necessary to keep any tensions in the hands? Or maybe there are no tensions. But if you have tensions in the fingers, can the blood invite those tensions to be easy? We've had a lifetime of working with the hands in school and so on. Some of the fingers, sometimes our fingers carry habits of effort. But blood flow, gravity can invite ease where there once was effort. And I am noticing my own left shoulder sort of coming up towards the head in a kind of I would call it a sort of a tension. So I'm going to suggest, if you like, to just let this happen with your shoulders. Judith was working with this a couple of weeks ago. Just let your shoulders come up a little bit and then let them come back down to the natural pull, to your natural structure. And maybe we follow what Judith suggested and let the shoulders come all the way up toward the ears, all the way up toward the ears. What this does to breathing. And when you felt that, let them go. No longer necessary to press upward. Let them come down as slowly as you like, to feel good, to feel easy in the shoulders. We don't have to carry effort in the shoulders. And what this does to the neck and how the head rests now on the spine. When we're not pressing up with the shoulders, how the head feels, how breathing feels. And I'm going to suggest, when you're ready, that we allow the weight to shift from one foot, let's say the right foot, to the left foot. And then from the left foot to the right foot. And just feel how it is when your weight is shifting from one foot to the other. How long you need to feel this shift, this transition. And take as much time as you like to enjoy this shifting of weight. How it affects the neck and head to shift your weight from one foot to the other. Are the hands involved in this? Can you be easy through the hands? Is breathing responsive? What does breathing do to this exploration, if anything? And now I'll be quiet for a minute or two, and I'll invite you to walk around your space, your room, wherever you are. See what you see, do what you do. You might want to bend, you might want to stretch, you might want to lie down, you might want to walk. Whatever you do for a few minutes, just explore this self that we've been talking to and from. And now would you make your way back to where you can see the screen, where you can see me. And I want to propose doing one more thing together, which in sensing we have called coming to hanging. But what we're really going to be doing is following the weight of our head and torso downward. So as we're standing, just let your head come forward a little bit and let your shoulders be without tension, and just follow the weight of your head down. You don't have to reach the ground. You don't have to reach your toes. Just let your torso follow the head down as far as it feels good to you, or as far as the stretch invites. Just let yourself come to a state which we call hanging, which means that your weight is going forward and yet you're still supported by your feet. So you're not going to fall or anything, but you're just hanging downward through the torso. What this feels like in the back, what it feels like in the neck. And after a while, you slowly find your way up towards standing. And how is standing now? And then let's repeat this. I shouldn't say repeat. Let us try this again. It may be completely new. Just let the head fall a little bit forward. Shoulders can be very easy as I just follow the weight down. Is it possible to breathe and do this? What does breathing say to this kind of movement? And as you're ready for it, come back to your chair or whatever you're sitting on, a cushion, chair, and we'll come back to sitting. So would you let your hands come and cover your eyes? It's now darker. And then let them come away slowly enough that even with your eyes closed, you can see the gradual coming back of light. How it feels to be more interconnected with light. It'll come right through your eyelids. And then slowly letting the eyelids open. And what you see. Can we see without naming? And if we name, can we go back to seeing without naming? What do you see? Is it possible to see something before you as if it's new? I see someone turning their head from side to side. Why don't you try that? It's just turn your head left to right, and it's about turning your head, but also what changes to your seeing? What do you see when you turn to the right? What do you see as you turn to the left? We don't have to grasp anything. We can just let it come to us. Let it come in as it comes in. We don't necessarily even have to name it. What comes to us? How it feels to let it in. And let's shift our weight, only this time, instead of from foot to foot, is it possible for you to shift from sitting bone to sitting bone? Does it work in your chair so that sometimes your weight is on your right sitting bone and sometimes it's on the left? What does this do to the lower spine? What's happening in the shoulders? And after a while, we let this come to resting. And we find something that feels like balance so that our weight is going through both sitting bones kind of equally. How that affects the back, how it affects the head. Can you feel your breath near your eyes where your hands were? Can you feel breathing around there? It enters the nose. Is there any way to feel it? Do you feel it? in this area where your hands were a minute ago. And as you feel your breathing, what does that do to quiet, to listening, to being able to respond to the world as it is, as it comes to us? Do you feel breathing in your head? So thank you very much. Um, I'd like us to share together and as a larger group today. Who would like to share something?
I would.
Yes.
Chester here. Thank you, John, for leading today. And certainly my heart has become even more open from the experiences over the last 40 minutes. I feel and sense in my organism tremendous energy from the top of my head to the bottoms of my feet. I feel great grief. My heart is heavy. I feel enraged, and I feel very saddened and hurt. I feel like, as a Black man for the last, well, I'm 66, so maybe a little less than 66 years, I've been more or less flying under the radar in regard to racism and oppression and the perpetuation of these kinds of inequalities, especially leave me feeling in the moment like a foot is on my neck and I can't hardly breathe. And I've experienced that off and on in this session. I experienced it last week and I kept my mouth closed, flying under the radar. So I am deeply moved. Looking at that video of Mr. George being murdered, the foot of that cop, of those cops, they're not showing the explicit video all that much, at least on the little bit of TV I've been watching. It makes me sick. I can't stand it. It increases my hypertension, which is directly related to racism from peer-reviewed studies that were done 20 years ago. And to see that video, I was traumatized. I was traumatized. And that's what I do for a living. I work with people who've been traumatized, but that seriously traumatized me. There's not a day that goes by since I saw that video that I'm not like shivering inside from moment to moment at times throughout the day behind that trauma. So I thank you all. Chester.
Thank you, Chester. I want to just say that Charlotte Selver would say many times, sensing is about feeling yourself in your immediate sensate world, but it's also about feeling the whole world, feeling what's happening, feeling unfairness, feeling repression, taking a stance. So thank you very much, Chester.